myself, what would Walter do? What would Walter do?
Hello, where's my Annie gone? There he is.
Come on, yeah, you're long gone.
Yay.
Oh, everything just takes so long, Paulette. It's the story of my life.
We're going to have to go back to that other one.
What, StreamYard?
Yeah, pay.
Okay, now we can talk about it. What's £300 a month?
Why is it 300? He's only paying 45.
Who?
Cyrus.
I don't know why. I say I was only paying 45. And then they hiked it up because apparently I'm a company, which they knew because I'm a company, right? Don't forget, I do a lot more than him. A lot more. So, I have no idea. It's between. I'm not going back to StreamYard. I probably have to get a new computer. That's probably my best bet. Just my HD camera is a problem on here, which is really annoying. It's a problem all around, but that's a minor problem for Let's.
I like the way you move and it follows you, though. I think that's great. I don't want one because I bend over, I'd break it.
It's a bit weird, but it's what it is.
Listen, it's my birthday month and it's an exciting month, and I've got lots of exciting things planned, and I'm looking forward to it.
What do you have planned? What do you have planned for your birthday?
We are collecting, as you know, stuff from TikTok for the kids in care, the foster kid children, and the care leavers. So I've been making friends with all the different manufacturers and chatting them all up, and flirty-gurty with them all. And flirty-gurty's working because the stock's coming in. So we have like deliveries every day, and Charles is like, my house is just like there's nowhere to walk, nowhere to stand.
What's flirty-gurty?
Just hello.
I'm scared to ask.
I just make sure they understand how much I value them, and I value their products, and I would love to put their products in my kits if they would allow it, but obviously money's very short, and it'd be very nice if they could help me out and that kind of thing. And then they're left going, oh, a lovely lady, I'd love to give her some of our products. Then I get a phone call a couple of days later, we're sending you a box of goodies. And then like 3 massive great boxes of goodies turn up. You're like, oh my God, what did I do? And then they phone you up and they go, are you happy? You go, yeah, I'm really happy. Or I meant to ask you, are you married? Oh God, here we go. Yes, I am very married. Goodbye. Thanks for the samples.
Yes.
It's a risk. It's a big risky game, but it's a game I play very well.
So those who send you merchandise to publicize, are also creepy.
Everybody's creepy. I think the whole bloody thing is creepy. Yeah, everybody is. They're all pretend. They're all in like a world of difference. So let me explain what I mean by that. The whole thing is fake. The whole thing is false. Nobody is authentic. We talk about authenticity and honesty and all the things we talk about over here. Over there, I've got at any one time 50 Elon Musks. I've got a handful of Fazzers. I've got a dozen or so Prince Faz dams. I've got you name it, and I've got them. Seriously, the volume of crazies I've got, and nobody calls themselves by their name, so you don't know who the heck you're talking to. So you're talking to like, hello, my name's Elon. No, it's not. You know it's not. I know it's not. You don't want to know. But do you want to be known by the name of Elon? Okay. Oh my God! If only you
See,
could. Afterwards, I will show you a picture of the lounge. Not
see,
now, but
that,
afterwards.
that's a
God.
reason that's a
Actually,
reason I
take
like.
a quick WhatsApp, Penny, or send it to.
I've got one.
Or of
See,
this lot
Yeah.
for Ben.
that's the reason I like LinkedIn, because at least you know who people are. You know who they are for
Oh,
sure. They
absolutely.
name
That
what
is,
it is. Right?
yeah, just send
Uh,
it.
the rest of it is
Send it
crazy.
to any. You've got any's email.
Once it's out there, it's
It's
public.
out there. It's public. Any won't embarrass me.
Is there a picture of you, Paulette?
No, darling, it's not a picture.
No, it's a
Cheeky
picture of
bugger.
what she does.
So don't
Just
send
how
it.
good I am at what I do. This is terrible
Anyway,
human.
look, so our friend Ollie's here. How you doing, Ollie? I
Hi,
haven't seen you
Ollie.
for a while. Glad you're back. And Ollie tells me kindly that we are live on YouTube, but we're not live on LinkedIn.
The phone's going to ping in a minute, and
Annie, look at this part. Look at this email. Not email. WhatsApp.
Hold on. Let
Hi,
me.
Ollie.
So LinkedIn is very slow as well. It's not getting better. Anyway, so, okay, Charles, I'm going to my WhatsApp. Dog says, yeah, WTF. Wow. You can't see outside now, poor Teddy. Look at him. Overshadowed by boxes. So what are those boxes?
Could be anything. I honestly don't.
Really?
Yeah, I've no idea.
So you just
I signed
yeah.
up for affiliate samples, and I'm in the beauty and health arena. So it could be anything to do with beauty and health.
Really?
Yeah.
So every day you get
Oh,
parcels
hang
from
on.
random.
He hasn't finished, he
no,
says.
but Ellie's got the picture of the ones at the front door.
Oh my God.
Why have you got one?
Wow.
I wasn't.
Wow.
Oh, it's got to stop.
Yeah, the one has got to stop, Paulette. Two, how long can you carry on like this?
Well, the thing about it is, I would imagine within the next five, I don't know where they've come from, honestly. Loads of kitchen roll now. Oh my God. Can you imagine how do you know how I review kitchen roll? The same way I review toilet roll. I stand there going, I go, it's got to be man proof, and I just pull it and go, look, 3-ply, it's man proof.
I laugh, Paulette. I laugh.
I'll get through it all, and it will be fine. Huh?
A lot of it's QVC.
Yeah, because they do a lot of freebies.
But
anyway,
can you ever go back to your normal life? So I'm thinking, minus
Oh,
talking.
absolutely. As soon as
normal life.
This is normal life. This is just.
This is not normal life. This is strange life. This is weird. This is weird behavior.
I tell you, the weirdest part is some of the people who come on TikTok and say stuff they should not say. They really are rude, and like not just rude, but like sexually rude. And you think, how did you get
inappropriate? Inappropriate is a word, right? Inappropriate.
Oh, massively inappropriate. And like when I said to one guy, I said, listen, I'm 62 in the end of the month. I said, I really think that somebody didn't teach you about respecting your elders. And I said, I'm really shocked to even hear the way you're speaking to me. And he went, I'll still give you one. I went, oh, I suppose I should be grateful. What do you have? Do you answer that, Annie? What do you say to someone? I'll still give you one. Oh, thanks very much. I appreciate it. I'm glad that you think I'm still working.
That is so unprofessional on every level.
It's not. There's no professional. Professional is like such a silly word. It's like going from Harrods to the Poundland. That's the level. And
That
as
is
long as you know
ridiculous.
that, that's fine. I mean, YouTube, I say, would be on a par with LinkedIn to a large degree.
No, 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 no. I'm on
Now,
YouTube.
hang on. I'm
I'm on
saying
YouTube now.
YouTube is better in terms of the product of YouTube, what's on there, what
Yeah.
they create, the stuff that's on there, the quality of the videos. You
Mm.
can argue that there is a level of comparison, not
Yeah.
the same, but comparison. WhatsApp and I like WhatsApp and I stay on WhatsApp. I don't give anyone else my number. I probably have got 150 to 200 men asking for my number every day. I'm now at 11,800 followers on day 44.
Oh, wow.
And I'd say 60% are men. And those men are not there because they think that I've got something interesting to say. They want to be rude to me or offer to suck my toes or do something equally inappropriate. And some of them want to be just normal, which is lovely when you get a normal one. And one guy said to me, "I'm so sorry you have to put up with this." And I was like, "You are."
Truly, it's ridiculous behavior.
But I'm doing it for a cause. If I was doing it just because, I would be off there gone. I'd be gone. I said to Charles the other day, I would not be still there if it wasn't for the fact that I've made this conscious effort that I want to take a carload, two carloads of products to comfort cases for the kids in care, the foster care carers and the care leavers, so that there'll be stuff that kids can choose for their parents, stuff that parents can choose for their kids. I mean, there's not just me going to be raising money, not just me raising charity, but it would be nice to think that I've done a big chunk of it. And that's always been my dream, to give back. You know that. So that's the only reason I'm here. I wouldn't be here otherwise. Have we got to LinkedIn yet?
I've given up on LinkedIn, so we should be live on LinkedIn, but we're not. So, but we're live on.
So if I put a message out saying we're out live on your YouTube?
Yes.
Okay, I'll put a quick message out because otherwise people are going to be asking me where we are.
Yes.
I'll say Annie can't work it. Annie doesn't know what buttons to press, I'll say.
Yeah, it sounds like you've been harassing poor Ollie. Annie doesn't know what buttons to. That's all right. I can take it. I haven't done it
I've had that
time.
much abuse today, believe me.
Yeah.
Right. Let me just put a quick message out that just says, quick post that says, hang on, let's not do that.
Ollie's enjoying your 11K follow. Is that 11K follow? Is that you?
11,800, yeah.
Yay.
In 44 days.
You know, maybe that they are the TikTok lookalikes.
There's no likey in this. This whole thing it's all fraud. It's all fake.
It's not meant to be fake, though, is it? It's not meant to be fake.
It is all fake.
It's not. It's not all fake. You know, look, that platform is wrong. You know, that's what we have to say openly and keep saying it. The platform is, you know, it's corrupt.
It needs some serious work doing on it. That's for bloody sure.
It needs to be taken down for what now, because the way it's been designed is childish and pathetic. You know,
I don't disagree.
You know, and whatever. I don't know what the game is. You know, lobbing stuff at people like you for no reason. You know, just lobbing goods at you because they can't sell their own stuff. You know,
just because they say you said you take anything that's in that region, you just go, hang on a minute.
If I were you, I'll say no. I'll say no. I'll take them and then just not do anything about it.
I mean, I can sell the stuff. I can get rid of it. People do that all the time. Sell it on eBay and things, or Vinted or whatever. So I can always sell it and make money for the kids that way. But it's just the volume. It's just ridiculous. I'm going to repost and say, but we are live on your YouTube, yeah?
Yeah, you know,
We
we're live on my
are live
Facebook. I don't know
on
why you're not live on LinkedIn.
Any's what, Facebook or YouTube?
YouTube. That's the one I'm sending the link out for now.
YouTube.
Let me put the link on our YouTube page as well, on our LinkedIn page, let's say.
On Any's YouTube, there we are, post.
Mhm.
So at least people will know where to go if they are trying to get
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
See how helpful I can be.
Yeah, no, thanks, Ollie. You're a star. You know, so Ollie is, you know, you want to know when your birthday is as well, by the way.
Old girl birthday.
You've been a bit
And
harsh.
yet they still will give me one. I don't know what one is. I think one of something. It might give me one fridge or one dodgy something. I don't know. They're terrible humans, really, but you just have to just let it go. Because I mean, Brad Pitt the other day was so rude to me. I said to him, "If you were the real Brad Pitt, if you were the real Brad Pitt, I'd put you over my knee." And everyone, of course, laughs. Then you see, and that makes them laugh, and it just takes the nastiness out of what's been said. Because otherwise, you have to be so ballsy. Honestly, you have to have such quick humor and quick wit to be able to play the game. Otherwise, you just come unstuck.
Ridiculous. No,
I had the other day. I was quite funny. I had Prince Bazza Hamdam, whatever, came into the room. I had Brad Pitt and I had Johnny Depp, and I said, "No, listen, guys, my basket's down below and it's full of stock. I could really do with it having a bit of a clear out. So if you buy one of everything, we'll be sorted by the end of the day, right?" And they were all like, "Oh, we're not the real Brad Pitt." You don't say, really? Johnny Depp said, "I ain't got to. I need to rub together. I can't buy anything." And I'm like, "Oh no, you mean you're not the real Brad Pitt?" And he's like,
Yeah,
"No."
that's even worse, right? That's even worse. That's even worse. Yeah.
It's laughable. It's just laughable. And you just have to ask yourself what they're hiding. Why can't you be yourself? There has to be a reason, right? What's my name on? Do you know what my name is on TikTok?
Go on.
It's not like Delightful Dolores or something, right? It's
I might
not.
thought it's Paulette or something to
It's
that effect.
Paulette Hallam, exactly. Paulette Hallam. And my name on LinkedIn is Paulette Hallam, and my name on Instagram is Paulette Hallam, and my name everywhere
Strange
the
that.
same. And so why do I not sound Dolly Parton? Or I mean, the other day, Charles sitting next to me, I said, "Charles, I've got some good news." I said, "What's that?" I said, "I've got good news. I've got more good news." He's like, "Tell me." I said, "Dolly Parton is going to give us 100 grand, and she's also going to throw in a truck for you." And Charles is like, "Great, can you say yes, please?" So I went back.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. We'd like that.
But it wasn't Dolly Parton, was it?
Of course, it wasn't bloody Dolly Parton. No, it was somebody who had Dolly Parton's picture, and there was quite a few pictures. But did it mean anything? No, of course not. But you see, as long as you see that for what it is, it doesn't actually bother me. And that's the funny part about me. I'm able to see it as a game. This is a whole pile of slop, and I'm playing in the slop.
That's
And
the
then
game.
when I come out of the slop, I come and join the real people on LinkedIn. Right? And if I want to go and play back in the slop for samples, I go and play in the slop for samples. And that is how I've been doing it.
You see, here's my problem with it. I can leave it alone after this, really. You know, these are dishonest people, full stop.
They have to be, otherwise, why would they be themselves? Of course.
Why would dishonest people be in business, number one? And why would they be
They're not in
reasonable?
business. None of them are in business.
But clearly they are to be sending you stuff like they are.
Though the manufacturers and the retailers are proper and real. The people that are on the actual platform are all muckers. You've got some good salespeople on there. I mean, really sharp, really sophisticated salespeople on there. But then you've got equally a slot. And they're never going to buy from you. They're never going to buy anything. A bit like you'd say about some of the people that you work with. You know, they're never going to spend the money that you really need them to spend. And that's simply and utterly because ultimately they haven't got the money to spend. And the reason they haven't got the money to spend is very simple. It's because they are exactly what we said they are. They're muckers. You know? Oh, I'm about to drop you on your head.
Yay! That's gonna hurt.
Could you do me a favour, Charles? I can't quite reach.
Okay. Let go of the lead. Just the lead.
If I just knocked it off a bit. There you go.
Right. That's because it's
No, I know it was fine before, but it was just I wiggled it trying to get the lead on the top. I've got you upside down. Oh gosh.
The lead's at the bottom.
Okay, here we go then. Here we go. Don't feel sick. There we go. For that moment in time, we all went upside down. Yeah, I've got it up a bit more. Okay. Here we go. There we go. We're all sorted again. So now we've finished ripping them apart. Where are we going?
Let's talk about today's topic. Why don't we?
Sorry, shall we have a go at it? Right, guys, I've got to just pull my dress up because it keeps falling down. I don't want no indecent shots on this program either because they're always trying to catch you on the other one. Right, okay, here we go. So. Let's just turn that to my position. Oh, there you're going to fall. We're going to have to go there. Oh, no, what happened? What happened? What did I do?
I don't know what you did, but I'm laughing at all his comments.
What did Ollie say?
Like, Ollie say loads of things. You know, you have to go eat a Pythagoras. That's one. You know, says, you know, this is going to be a very deep conversation, depth conversation. You know, not Lamborghini. This Lamborghini. He just carries on.
They do say. They say that you should take your first boyfriend or girlfriend's name, right? And you take the name of your first pet, and that would be your sort of stage name kind of thing, right? So my first pet was Bugsy, it was a rabbit. So I would be known as Bugsy Harvey, right? Now, Bugsy Harvey doesn't sound that bad, you know. Oh, we've got Bugsy Harvey.
Yeah, Bugsy Harvey's on stage, yeah.
You know, there are some that come out and they are so funny. And their names, they call themselves, you know, Busty Brenda from Burlington. And you're like, why would you call yourself Busty? It's just like, why? You know?
It's a debauch platform. No, let's leave it at that.
They make me say their names, you know, so I have to say things like
really.
Yeah. So what did I have to? I said hello to everybody, and then this guy came on and he was like, "Must have a wank," and I said, "Pardon." I didn't read it like that. I read it. Mustafa. And it turned out to say something very different. And
no, like you read it the way it was intended. I'm sure you read it exactly the way it was intended.
I swear to you, I read it phonetically how I read it. And then when I went, "You bugger," and I said, "Right, you can bloody go." So I blocked him.
Yeah.
Friends that were really dirty, and I blocked them. And then it got to the stage where I thought I'm going to have just to stop because for every one I block, they send 5 bad ones, you know.
Wow.
So tell of bad people.
Wow. That's a very ridiculous.
Because if you don't take it for what it really is, you know, you could make yourself sad about it. Whereas if you make it into a joke, it's like, oh well, that's what it is. That's what we're dealing with, you know.
It's exploitation of the worst kind, and I just don't. I don't suffer it at all.
We
Yeah,
certainly
you know.
cannot tolerate it on this platform at all. But
No,
that's
it shouldn't be tolerated anywhere, because now this is why
the
we're
problem.
going towards banning kids on social media, Paulette, because this sort of behavior it's
So
it
I've
shouldn't
got
exist.
2 gay guys that are really great fun, and I really like them. And but he's on there, and this guy comes on and goes, "You make me feel really sick. You're disgusting. What you do is really disgusting. I don't know. You can live for yourself." And he said, "That's what your dad said last night." And I'm like, "Did you really just say that?" And he said, "Yeah." And I was like, "Why did you say that?" He said, "Because it gets rid of them." And I'm like, "Oh, I couldn't. I just couldn't. I couldn't be that quick or that rude or that whatever. Just brazen." But he said you get used to it. He's so used to it. It's like that's his life, you know. Defending himself. You know, I'm surprised, but and I'm equally surprised I've got that many followers when I've deleted 20 or 30 a night, you know. You think, how many could I have had, you know? Sometimes it's 50 go in a night.
That's just crazy. That's everything you're saying is it's a liberty. That's what I can describe it. It's a liberty, really.
But you're putting yourself out there as going live. So like I go live on here, I know the people are going to be listening, receiving what I say. They're going to be interested in what I say, or they're not going to be here. And if you take on the platforms that you go live on TikTok, it's either on I tend to stick with mental wellness. I talk about children. I talk about the rainforest that ends in Zon, where you can read books, you know. And I've sold about 40 books from there. But the point I'm making is that you have to really understand at what level are we. The depravity is so low that how low are you prepared to go, you know? And I have to go live because that's the rules of the game. I have to go live twice a day. I've been going live once a day. And that's sometimes even that's I've had to be really like wondering whether what's a good time to go live. Is there still kids up? So if I go live now, maybe the people will behave better. Do you know what I mean? You just
No,
I'm trying to work it out, and I'm not getting very far. They're all blooming nutcases, a lot of them.
You've got the patience of a saint, and look, I don't care how many pennies I can make on TikTok. I'm
Penny, and I have no money, so I have a motivation, and I'm out of cash. We need about £5,000 to £6,000 to buy what I want to buy and get what I want to get. So I'm prepared to put my hours in to get the stuff to do the job. That's the truth. So once I've got everything I need and everything I want, I'll just say bye. It's been a pleasure.
Thank goodness is what I say. Right, look, our time is going, so I think that this is a very important topic. So
right,
let's
let me get going. So the topic is not only let's supposed to start right at the beginning. The topic is one where we're saying people who struggle with the illness of others don't actually realize how stressful it is that you're doing that to yourself. So in other words, by looking after somebody else, you are in turn making yourself ill. And I don't mean as in like terribly ill. I mean, as in you are going to be ill, because stress passes on to you. So the key here is to ask yourself this, right? Who do you get to download to? Now, as a counsellor or a therapist, or a supervisor, you've always got somebody that you can talk to. You've always got someone that is above you, that's as educated as you are, or higher, and who you can talk to about everything and how it affects you. And I think the key for me is to make sure that when you take on this job of a carer, you make sure that you're not going to be leaving yourself with an empty jug. And we always say, your jug's half full, or, you can't pour from an empty cup. Put your mouth and your oxygen on first, and all those kind of comments. You've heard them, but we don't implement them. When we're dealing with somebody who's ill, all we can do is see compassion. And that's not just me, that's everybody, that's nature. And it's human nature. And if it's a partner or a family member or a friend, you become their main source of support. And when you love someone regardless of what they're going through. Now, you take my husband, for example. He has loved me through a chronic physical illness, a mental illness, as in that I was in so much pain. I was paralyzed. So I couldn't even think straight. I was on so many drugs. Literally, I used to go sit in the corner and sleep. And that's a bad place to be. And it's one of life's greatest acts of compassion to be that caring, but it comes at an enormous emotional and physical and financial cost. Excuse me. First of all, can I apologise for my voice, because it will go in and out. When you become a carer, your life can gradually change without you even noticing it doing so. Days become centered around appointments, medications, managing symptoms, and constantly worrying about somebody else's well-being. Many carers put their own Many carers put their own health, their careers, their friendships, their ambitions, all on hold because the person they love needs them. What often goes unseen is the silent grief that the carer experiences. They may mourn the life they once shared, the future that they had planned, the trips they may have taken, the freedom they once enjoyed, and they can feel exhausted, isolated, guilty for wanting a break, and frightened about what tomorrow might bring, all while trying to remain strong for the person they care for. There is also really a society. This is something that society rarely talks about. And as a societal issue, it's a massive financial sacrifice. So you're on a 50 grand job, and you have to give your job up to take over looking after your spouse or partner, and you'll get something like £600 a month as your carer's allowance, and then you'll get the person who's ill will get about the same amount for being ill. So you're now living on £1,200 a month, which is well below the breadline. And you couldn't pay your bills. You couldn't do anything in our country on $1,200 for sure. £1,200 rather, for sure. So it's more about the things that I've really focused on is the sociological, economic, and also psychological effects of looking after somebody and being codependent, being financially dependent, and everything that you do has that person as their number one spot, whether you wanted it or not. It's how it happens. So for many, financial support simply doesn't reflect the sacrifice. There are many carers complain all the time about the very low benefits that they get as care allowance or attendance allowance. So they get very little help, but they rarely replace the income that has been lost, not even by 10%. Their economic impact can last for years, placing additional stress on families who are already coping with illness. Yet, despite all of this, many carers continue because they actually love someone deeply, not because it's easy. The challenge is learning that caring for someone else should not require abandoning yourself. Looking after your own well-being is not selfish, it is essential. You cannot sustain compassion if you are physically exhausted, emotionally depleted, and financially overwhelmed. Some ways of protecting yourself whilst continuing to care include, just going to grab some water, one sec. Accepting help when it is offered, which I think is one of the hardest things to do, because you've been hiding how bad someone's got, or I used to sit in the corner and pretty much dribble and just like barely speak, and I was in that much of a state. I was on morphine to the nth. I was on cocodamol to the nth. I was on Valium to the nth, and as a consequence, it was, you just kept topping up so that you didn't feel the pain. But in doing that, you lost yourself, because you just became like a vegetable sitting in the corner, and people would say, oh, she's in la la land. And that was supposed to be kind of like the kindest way of saying that you're not going to get any sense out of her today, because she was so drugged. And gradually, well, not gradually, I actually just stopped taking the morphine and ended up having to get rushed into hospital, having a morphine shock, because I went into withdrawal without knowing what that even was. So, you're supposed to come off these things gently, and I just went, no, I'm not taking it anymore. So I didn't, and I can be very stubborn, as you know, and I ended up seriously ill because of just saying, I'm not doing it anymore, I've had enough. So, despite the challenge, when people offer help, sometimes you are embarrassed to let someone know just how bad it really is and how awful or difficult your life is. If you're looking after somebody who's got dementia, for example, we now know, to give an example, would be Charles's family. Charles's dad is now taking over the cooking. Charles's dad does the shopping. They go together, but Charles's dad will be managing the money, the finances. She has no idea, clue about money at all. And she'll give you something. She gave me something the other day, and she said, if you don't want it, I'll have it back because I like it. And it's a strange way to be, but you just have to go, okay, that's fine. If I don't use it, I'll give it back to you, And the same, she gave me a little pot of cream, and you're like, I never asked you to buy me any cream. I don't need the cream. But you see, you've got to be enthusiastic about the gift. Otherwise, it's like, well, I'll take it back then. It's a very childlike. It's a very reversing of that the person suddenly becomes the child, and it is very, very hard. I can't imagine how hard it is to live with, because Charles has a conversation and he looks at me and he goes, no verbs. There were no verbs and no nouns. How the hell am I supposed to guess what she's saying? And he always says, it's like that game where it says, you mustn't say window, right? On the card, you mustn't say window. So you're saying, you know, the thing that you look through, you know, the thing that people come around the house and they wash, the thing that, you know, that they're having houses, or you go, and this is how she talks to you, and you're like, give us a clue, just give us a clue, you know, because we've got no idea what you're talking about. And we're trying to be supportive and friendly and lovely, but we have no clue, and it makes it so hard. And they tell you you shouldn't put words in their mouths, but Charles's dad said, are you talking about the window? And she goes, oh, that's the one, the window. Now I know with my fibromyalgia, in a similar way, I go to a filing cupboard and I might be looking for the word of posterity, as in to keep it for, you know, long term and have value and all the rest of it. And I'll say prosperity. So I'll be just one or two letters out, and it frustrates the life out of me, but it can mean two different things, and if you're not careful, you could say the wrong thing, and that's what fibromyalgia does. And menopause does it too, actually, and I'm sure Lisa would confirm. But the point I'm making is with Alzheimer's or any of the issues with people that have got these absolute blanks, they can't think of words at all. If they were trying to just describe the key for a door, you know, it'd be the door, and you'd be like, yeah, the door. You went through the door, or you shut the door? You opened the door. What did you do with the door? And this is how we carry on, trying to work out what is the conversation. And it's not like they won't tell you afterwards, but it takes a lot out of them. And it's exhausting for them and for you. And he is living with that. Now, she hasn't started saying the same, or twice she said the same thing while she was here on Saturday. But it was only like minor, and it could have been because of different people in the room or whatever. But 9 times out of 10, I would say dealing with somebody with dementia must be so hard, because it's the frustration of losing that person bit by bit each day. Seeing me in pain hurt Charles, because he hated seeing me in pain. But then also he understood my reason for saying enough's enough. I do not want to live my life as a zombie. I don't. And I'll do whatever's required to sort it out, because I don't want to be a zombie. And so when you don't want necessarily to ask for help, it's really not because you don't want help, it's because you don't want people to know how bad it is, because you've been covering it up or making excuses or trying to make people think things aren't as bad as perhaps they are. I think accepting help when it's offered is not a weakness, it's positive. It's like saying, okay, you are going to do the shopping and not have to be thinking about, is she okay if I leave her at home? Will she set the house on fire? Will this happen? Will that happen? What you're thinking is, okay, that'll be magical, because you do that and then I can go out. That works fine, you know. You go to singing, I'll go and play golf, and I'll pick you up from singing, and da 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 da. You can work your life out, keep those external activities going, so that you keep your friendships, because God forbid anything ever happens, you want to be able to continue some kind of life after that person's gone. I think it's very important that we all remember that's the case. Some ways of protecting yourself while continuing to care. One is obviously accepting help. 2 is taking regular breaks without guilt. And if that means you use a retreat, or you use there are centres that take people for periods of time, maybe a day or half a day or just for a little while, just so that that gives you that peace of mind that you've got a day to yourself to go and play golf or do whatever it is you want to do, the garden or whatever. Maintaining friendships and interests outside your caring role, I think that's really important. And I for one, have always encouraged Charles to maintain friendships outside of us, so that he's got like village hall committee, and he sees people, he knows people in the village that I've got no clue who they are, and he knows them quite well, which is great because that's his thing. And it means that there is an external life to me, and he can bring me along when as and when I can, and when I can't, he can still go along by himself, help with the morning breakfast. He does the washing up when they do the breakfast club. No, I don't eat the breakfast, so there's no point me going to the breakfast. But they make money. They do it once a month, and it's something they do on a regular basis. And I think he looks forward to it. He looks forward to spending not a day with his hands in water, but a day with different people, different conversations. I think speaking honestly about your feelings rather than pretending everything is fine. So when Charles's dad was here, he'll say, how is everything? Is everything okay? And he goes, oh yeah, it's fine. And damn well that it's anything but fine. But the word fine is the first word that he comes up with that matches the question. And it's not fine. Don't say it's fine when it's not. Be honest and open. I do apologise. I've got a bit of a bug or something. My eyes running and my throat's dry. Speaking honestly about your feelings rather than pretending everything is fine, as I said, was key. Seeking practical financial advice and claiming every form of support available, and not being ashamed of doing that, because I think so many people pay into the system but are very reluctant to take out the system, and that's because they feel like somehow they are doing the wrong thing. And I say, on the contrary, you paid in all those years for so many years. Why would you not take out when it's your turn to? So seeking the practical financial advice, knowing that you can actually survive, because that's the other thing. Financially, you're lost two incomes, not just one. You're lost a person who's ill income, and now you're losing your income as the carer. And if you didn't want to be the carer, and you were then using a company that would bring carers into the house, number one, government caring is at an all-time low. They're screaming out for carers. I mean, I think they're paying nearly £30 an hour, I read somewhere the other day. Because people are it used to be something that an awful lot of the Eastern European people came over and did, and they've all gone home. So no, now we don't have anyone to care for anyone. Remembering that your needs matter too, and I mean that in a really kind way. I'm saying that you are a human being in your own right. You were a human being before you met this person that you fell in love with. You fell in love with that person, and you're seeing them through their difficulties. And then in the future, you'll still be a human being, and you'll still have needs, and you'll still have a life. And if they die, then you will need to be thinking about what happens to you next. And I just think that I'm not saying you have to rush out and join a dating site or anything of that sort. What I'm saying is that your needs matter, and your needs might be just to go and play a round of golf, or go and have a drink down the pub, or go down to the quiz night or something, I just think those things are incredibly important. And maybe the most important lesson that I came back with from all of this, and this is a sort of a little bit controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway. Perhaps the most important lesson is this: you do not have to choose between loving someone and preserving your own happiness. In other words, you can love somebody through their illness and through their eventual demise, but not at the cost of your own happiness. You still deserve to have a life. Both can exist, they can coexist. No one should feel guilty for admitting that caring is difficult. Acknowledging the challenges often not diminish your love. It honours the reality of what carers do every single day. I'll read that again. No one should feel guilty for admitting that caring is difficult. It's one of the hardest jobs in the world. Acknowledging the challenges does not diminish your love. It honours the reality of what carers do every single day. Behind every person living with a long-term illness is often someone quietly carrying on invisible. Behind every person, my voice is a nightmare. Behind every person living with a long-term illness is often someone quietly carrying an invisible burden. What do I mean? What I'm saying is that it looks like everything is sorted, everything is hunky-dory, everybody's under control. The carpet looks clean, the house looks clean, the washing's done, the food's on the table. It all looks like it's just bubbling along just quite nicely. But let's not forget that there's an acknowledgement that that all took time and effort. And maybe they can have a cleaner, and maybe they can have someone comes in and does a few hours each day or whatever. But nonetheless, you shouldn't diminish your own life just because you're trying to honour somebody else's when they're at a stage in their life where they probably don't even know what day it is. So just, it's kind of, I'm saying, care is wonderful and you should care for people, but you also need to remember that there's two of you in this conversation. And then behind every person living with long-term illness is that they deserve this person, whoever it is, male or female, they deserve recognition, they deserve understanding and far greater practical support than society currently provides. Caring is one of the most valuable contributions anyone can make to society or to an individual. And those who give so much of themselves should never be expected to sacrifice their own well-being, identity, or financial future in the process. I'm going to go again with that statement. I think it's so relevant. Caring is one of the most valuable contributions anyone can make. And those who can give so much of themselves should never be expected to sacrifice their own well-being, their identity, or their financial future in the process. And I'm going to finally say that. My son said to me once, this was when I was very poorly. I mean, I was lying in bed in the conservatory. We couldn't get upstairs, so we just lived downstairs. Charles could go up and have a shower or whatever, but I used to have to wash in the sink or buy those sheets that you just wash yourself with every day. I was paralysed pretty much from the neck down. They call it paraplegic, but it's not permanent. It's caused by nerves, and they had to do an operation on me, and they cut a lot of nerves. They did a quarter equine operation years ago, which went terribly wrong. Then they had to cut the sciatic nerve, and then they kept cutting nerves. We had 18 nerve denervations. They cut different nerves, trying to get the back and the spine back working, which they did, and they got it up and working. And we ended up having a spinal cord stimulator fitted, which sits behind my, above my right bum cheek, and that is charged every night, so that it's always permanently, like a TENS machine, but it's in my back permanently, and the wires run up and down the dura to my neck, which is great until you need an MRI scan, and they go, well, you can't have one because you'll fry. So then the only place you can get one is Adam Brooks, who know how to do it under these circumstances. But the point that I'm trying to make is it's not just the caring for someone, it's the taking them to and from the appointments. It's the managing the diary of what's got to be done, where and when, and by who. And I think those are the questions that really are forgotten. And I think that they were the most important things that came to my mind, is that, you know, for example, in Charles's mum and dad situation, we won't let the mum go out on her own anymore. So that is really quite a drastic move. So if the dad goes out, she is locked in the house. Now, what happens if there's a fire? I have all kinds of thoughts, but then she's not allowed near the oven. So, but she still does the ironing, or I think that's still on her list. She calls them her jobs and his jobs, but she moans and she's very angry about everything, and it's very, very difficult to see somebody degenerate in front of your eyes. And then I think about how ill I was, and I think about how everybody coped. Is Paulette able to speak to us today, or is she in La La Land? That's pretty drastic. I don't know. I came away after writing all this up feeling quite glad that I've worked through so much of what Charles has done for me in the past, and how lucky I am to have somebody who loves me and is willing to do it. I think the key here now, and the key that we need to think about, is what about if you don't have a Charles? What if you're going to rely on the state to supply you with some kind of help? And what if that help isn't available? And what if that help isn't the sort of help you want? What do you do? Penny, over to you. What thoughts do you have? Is he making making a cup of tea?
No, I'm here. You can't hear me, no?
Now I can.
Yeah, so I'm welcoming Dr. Lisa Drew. So I'm trying to get her name up on the screen. Don't know why it's not moving. Oh, I love tech. I love tech. I love tech. Dr. Lisa, we see you. Welcome. Welcome. Glad you're here. Yes, and Ollie says, I think Ollie had a question, which I would love for us, for us to explore. Look, okay, let me start here. This, being on either end, being recipients of care, or being required to give care, could happen to any of us tomorrow, even today. We are literally a moment away from being in this situation.
Yep.
I'm thinking, looking like, a bad fall, bang your head, you're in trouble. You need, the head injury, TBI. Suddenly, you're not the person you were. Now you need help. Have a child. and then suddenly this child has a disability. You're in the same situation. I'm saying that this, and that's where I come at this from. We could be the one needing care as much as the ones giving care. I think it comes down to pure and simple having compassion. That's what that. Of course, I'm not going to say. I know the stats. I know the numbers. I worked with children with disabilities in my previous life, so I know that the quickest way to become bankrupt is having a disability. In the US, it's just getting ill, full stop, right? You just get ill, and literally you could be sent down the drain because your finances just can't keep up. And I guess I hope we can find that compassion within ourselves. Of course, it's our partner, our parents. I could carry on. So, literally, anyone could need help tomorrow, and I would hope that I will rise to the challenge. I accept everything you say. We need to care for ourselves. We need to look after ourselves. Otherwise, we can't look after anyone. We need to. I don't know. Life would change because our finances would change. What people say to us, what people expect of us would change. Suddenly when we were a two, maybe we were a family of three. I'm saying now it looks like a family of one, essentially, right? It's all of that.
Well, look at the sign behind you, the lessons learned from COVID. I mean, for me, so much came from that, where we learned about compassion, we learned about caring. I mean, my brother actually being on in a car park, directing traffic for people to park their cars, and socially distancing and all the rest of it, handing out masks, and people had forgotten them and things. I could never have believed he could have done that, but he said he felt like he needed to do something. The reason we all gave to Captain Tom was because we all needed to do something. We all felt the need to put something in the pot somewhere, and we didn't know how to do it. And Captain Tom, having an NHS fund, did it, and it did go to the NHS, the fund from that 43 million or whatever it was. So at the end of the day, that did happen, and we have to remind ourselves it happened. But we took that one person to our hearts, and we felt like we could do something by sponsoring him or whatever. Prior to that, we didn't know what to do to help. We went and banged pans and pots and things outside our house, and made noise and sang songs and did various things just to make people think, look, video us and send it to the people that are working on stuff at the airport. I organised one night, there was a too good to go parcel, and it was they said they got 24 donuts, and I just said, would you please deliver them to the hospital and I'll pay for them? And they were like, no, we'll deliver them to the hospital, and you won't pay for them. We'll just take them to reception and say that this is from everybody, And I was like, wow. And she said, in fact, every single night, any product that's left over, sandwiches, cakes, whatever it is, croissants, whatever we've got left, we will make a point of just taking all of our ends straight to the hospital and dropping it at reception. And I felt that that was a massive way of me doing a little something to say thank you. Captain Tom giving him some money made me feel like I'd done a little something to say thank you. When I'm in the hospital, I'll pay for a doctor or a nurse or whoever's in the queue before me or after me for their whatever it is they're having. And I do that religiously. It's no good saying to the veterans in America, thank you for your service, and having a military day, and then you've got so many of them on the streets. There's so many veterans living on the streets. It doesn't, it doesn't compute in my brain that you say thank you for your service, and then but then you treat them so badly in terms of the fact that they're on the street. So I think the answer really comes down to compassion, a compassion with caution, so that you are able to still remain who you are, and compassion with an eye on the finances, so you always know where you stand, where the money situation is, and you never find yourself in a state where you can't afford to do things. I don't mean go on holiday, I mean just survive, food on the table, pay your electric bill, that kind of stuff. It's no joke. I mean, in Charles's dad's case, he's an 85-year-old man looking after an 82-year-old woman. That is a toughie. Charles is a 40-year-old man looking after a 45-year-old wife. And I mean, I had 2 years of this where I was in and out of hospital on the operating table, being treated like a slab of meat, and they didn't know what to do with me really, except just keep cutting, just keep cutting, and eventually they cut enough that I suddenly was able to feel my toes, and we were away, and I'd got movement, and yeah, it's not brilliant. And do I walk into walls occasionally? Yes, I do. I don't have any periphery vision, so that doesn't help. But other than that, now that I've got off the main, I mean, I'm still on the diazepam, the Valium, but I only take 3 or 4 a day max. I was on 8 every day, sometimes 10. And then plus codeine, plus paracetamol, plus the morphine, non-stop oral morphine. It was just endless. I was literally a zombie. People would say, to Charles, how is she? I could hear them speaking, but couldn't say anything. My lips didn't work. And it was awful. It's a horrible place to be. So I don't ever knock carers, because I know that caring is no mean feat. It's not easy, it's not it's not pleasurable, and I think it's probably one of the hardest things for people to do. That's my take. Annie, you there?
Of course, so I agree with you on everything you say. Like the reality is that caring is probably coming to all of us at one time or another. And I think the challenge, especially when you have old people and elderly people, I mean, I don't know what the stats are for him and her going at the same time. But the chances are one will go and there'll be one left who needs care. I'm thinking of my wife's parents. They're in their 80s. They're happy. They're quite happy living, up the hill by themselves. And I say literally, that's where they live, right? But I'm well aware that if one goes, we're gonna have to look after the other one. And I'm not sure there's much one can do to prepare. I say that's what I'm struggling to say what I'm trying to say. I don't think there's anything you can do beyond commit to be that person who's there for the person that needs someone there for them. For if it was if it were me, I would have to be there for whoever I have to be there for. I'm saying now, but at the same time, I think you go on. I mean, your point about self-care, all this talk about self-care that we hear on here, it does mean something. I think that this is where it becomes a real thing that we have to implement. We have to actually apply.
I think if you don't, you end up resenting, and
Yeah,
having having someone that you love resenting you. I can't imagine anything worse. That the person you love resents looking after you because their life is suddenly put on hold. That would be a horrible place, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I guess being the victim of that resentment, maybe being the target of that resentment, it must hurt a hell of a lot because we haven't got a choice. You know, there's nothing that you know, you can't suddenly become on old. You know.
I remember hearing people say, I mean, especially my foster mum, about me being in La La Land, and I used to absolutely hate this La La Land. And I
Mm.
think, what is La La Land? What? How am I displaying? How does La La Land display itself? Because I can't see it. Because I don't know what it is. Do you understand? And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
when
yeah.
I asked, when I was a lot better and stronger, they were like, you were out of it. You were like absolutely drugged at your brains. It was like you were just a zombie, a shell. And I was like, wow. And
But
I
but but but, but you were right there. Like you said, you could hear them, so you weren't, you know, in La La Land at all.
no, what they meant was La La Land because I didn't have the ability to communicate. I didn't have the ability to write. I couldn't speak. I was just like, I don't know, Charles, how would you describe La La Land? What would you say when Nanny Sandra used to
Oh, not
say?
the Bradley Stone film.
No, not the
Was it Emma
not
Stone
ask
film?
you to
Bradley
sing
film.
and dance. No, uh,
Not
as
my
a
cup of tea, really.
no,
But,
not your cup of tea, but as the person who is the carer,
yeah.
to you, what did La La Land mean? Because I say it's just drugged up and sitting in the corner dribbling.
Yeah, not dribbling, but
Well, I felt like I was.
you weren't. No. Just being a bit sleeping during the day more. You don't sleep. You used to be like nap in the afternoon. Like that.
No, but when she used to phone up, she said she couldn't make any sense about what I'd say, or it's like
Yeah,
I was
because
all
if you're
over the
very tired
place.
and not really in the mood to talk, and then somebody demands that you talk, when somebody phones you, they're saying, "I'm ready for a talk," and then they go, "Is it convenient?" Where it was like, "I'm going to talk to you,"
Yeah,
and you're going to go. "Ugh, ugh,
yeah.
ugh." So you know,
I think that's probably what the word is. Any, it's
choosing.
tired. You're so
Mm.
physically and emotionally exhausted that you are out of it. You're so gone. And then the question is, the people that are left behind are wondering what the heck's happened. You know, why have you become this shell? You know.
Which, again, I said that could happen to anyone, right? You know, it really could happen to anyone. You know, I say, no, I do want to emphasize your point about taking help. You know, so something tells me that in the old, you know, in times gone by, you know, when we had more community type thinking and living, you know, it literally would take a village. You know, say, you know, there'll be people that we can call on to help. You know, much like now, you know, so we're going on holiday in a month. We've got, you know, it's our in-laws, our son, and you know, so you know, there's people who are going to come and look after our pets. I think, you know, similarly, there's people there who can help with our caring duties. You know, I don't just mean the states. I'm saying just people in your neighborhood, in your community. You know, if you're thinking, nah, that will never happen here, my friend, you know, go and make some real friends. You know, you need some friends. You need a community of people around you. You need a network of people. Some
You
are
do.
professional, some are personal, some are friends, some are family. So now you're gonna have to, you know, we're gonna have to corral all of them. You know, if anyone's willing to spare a minute of their time, then I say we'll take it. No, I think that's important. You know, we have to be a
Help
lot more.
refused. Help definitely refused. But I can understand why it is. And I can understand why people are so embarrassed to tell the story of what's going on in your life, because it's such a circumstance that's so pertains to you that they will feel quite strange by it all. So I think that is, something worth remembering, that we're all living in this world where at some point somebody in your life is going to need help. And the question is, are you going to be in a position to financially support that? Or are you going to be in a position where you're going to have to give up work? Are you going to have to become the carer? In which case you get onto no salary, in which case life's very, very difficult. So there's lots of things that have to be considered. And I think that it's very brave and very courageous to say, oh, I'm going to be the carer, I'll look after her. And then 6 months later go, actually, this is a pain in the ass, I don't want to do it, That's very difficult when it's already arranged. You're the one that's taken the child. You need the person to look after the child, adult, old person, whatever it is, You can't then just like decide you don't want them anymore or whatever, because you're just passing the parcel. That's not how it works. You'll find the child will get taken into care if that happens. If the parent is happily passing it around the family, it will end up in care. So, all I'll say is that there definitely has to be a massive change in the way that we see carers and we see caring, and we understand exactly what we are expected to do.
I agree with you. I agree with you on all of that. So maybe now we need to understand how the care support system works around us as well, Paulette.
It's very, very hard. When my dad was ill and we tried to get a carer going twice a day, it took 6 weeks of him being on G ward, which is basically called the goners ward. So they're either going to go or they are not long for the world. So they said the G was the goners ward, which I thought was a bit, apparently it was geriatric. Somebody eventually told me. But I was told it was because it was the goners ward. And then literally they tried to get care for the morning and evening and couldn't. So he had to accept just a morning help, which was to help him get up, showered and clean. And he told the guy to F off, and the guy ate one of his chocolate sweets and left. And that was his first. He had Rodrigo, his name was. Rodrigo came round once. He signed his bit of paper and he took his sweet out of his Quality Street box, which didn't impress him at all because he didn't ask. And they were open on the side, so we just figured they were meant for sharing. And Dad said, you don't help yourself to one of them, And I said to him, how did it go with the carer? And he went, oh, he ain't coming back. I was like, why not? What did you do to him? Goes, oh, he was rubbish. He was useless. He wasn't what I wanted. Gone. End of story.
But that's why we have to be prepared to rise up to the challenge. That's why people need family and kinship care.
Well, if you think about the community, the Asian world, they all live together. The old folks live in the same house as the young folks. The young folks used to live looking after the old folks from a very young age. And vice versa. And then when they end up being, bedbound or whatever, then they become more involved with the caring and the parents and brothers. Like when I bought my house in Burnham, I bought my house and the guy was buying a house with his brother, and it was a 7-bedroom house, and they were combining their 2 sales of their own houses. One was the bungalow I bought in Burnham, one was the other guy's house, putting the money into this much bigger house. It used to be like a hostel. They used to run it as a multiple, like a house of multiple tenants, like everybody had their own. toilets.
fancy.
So
Yeah.
like, yeah, multiple tenancy thing. And he bought it, and then the person who was originally buying his house, bungalow, pulled out. So he had a bridging loan to try and make sure he guaranteed kept this house, because it meant that both sets of parents, so both the brothers' parents would be able to move in one room. The wife's mother would be able to move in. The wife and two wives and the two husbands will be working, and the children, but then they were making it so their shifts worked around the family, so there was always a person in the house.
Yeah.
And I've always knocked it and thought, bloody hell, how do you know how many people are in there and all this blah blah. But actually, maybe they've got a point of looking after their own. They always seem to do it.
Mm. Well, I'm sure the people have feelings of there are feelings associated with the caring duties that they perform, right? But I think we need to be
Culture,
able to.
a different
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, I like
Culture,
that.
they're brought up to look after their elders. Our world
Yeah,
is through them, we're off. Put them in a home, and whatever money they get from the rent, and then whatever they've got in the bank, and off it goes. And I know from when my brother's wife's dad died, he was the carer for the mum. She had
mm,
Alzheimer's and dementia, and she had two different types of dementia as well as Alzheimer's. She survived COVID twice, and she weighed 5 stone. She looked like Gollum when I saw her. The picture was like
yeah,
horrible.
right,
And they had to pay this extra money. So it's £1,200 a week for her to stay in this home that's like 10 minutes up the road. And in the nursing home, they were charging 48,000 a year, a month. 48,000 a month.
8,000. Look, I guess. Look,
And
the money side of this is a whole different conversation. Again, I think part of our wellness plan, call it that, must be to get financial advice.
oh, I believe that we
Uh,
put these
uh,
in
uh,
place for this.
I say that because if there's ways you can protect the person's money, your money, the person's money. Call it what you like, right? I'm saying,
Have a will, and
yes.
unfortunately, Debbie's parents didn't, and so
Mm,
they ended up without 400,000. They ended up with 60 grand. They're
I'll
allowed
take-
60,000, and literally every penny was spent.
yeah, and they were almost lucky.
because
Stacy.
they by the end of her life, she was on palliative care for the
Mm,
last 2 months of her life, so they had to give them back 88 grand. That was what the money was.
wow.
So they ended up with 88,040, sorry, 60. So they ended up with 88 and 60. So they ended up with 128,000 out of 400,000.
Which is better than nothing, but it could have all gone.
Yeah.
I say decent financial advice might have found a way to protect that, and protect the money that the person wanted to spend in a certain way.
Mm.
In other words, they wanted to give it to, whether it's inheritance, whether it's donation. I'm saying, only financial advice can help you in that case. And maybe what I will say, Paulette, is let's do these arrangements now. Let's not wait till someone. Let's not wait till the caring duty fall on us.
For elderly parents, 100%. Charles's dad said, "Oh, we've been to the bank and we've got power of attorney over your mum's bank account. and now that I'm allowed to know what is going on now, and da 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 da. And Charles said, well, that's great, and so Charles and Liz were put on it as well. And I said, well, what about your dad's? And he said, well, no, I'm all right. He said, well, you're all right today, but why are you there? You might as well do both. And the dad was a bit nose put out of joint, because it was like as if we were trying to get his money. And I said, what Charles is trying to say is, why are you doing one? You might as well do both, and it makes common sense. And they've got a lot of money put away. I mean, they've saved like crazy. They've been hermits with their money. They've got little pots and little, under the mattresses and all kinds of things, because that's the way they were and they are. And
I mean, that's sensible. That's a smart thing to
he
do.
got ill, but if he got ill, only he knows where everything is. We'd have to kind of great big doing, I don't know, like a quiz, like one of those games, where you can't leave the room till you find the money. We would have to go looking everywhere, like ransack the place. It's awful. And then his mum being there with his sister.
So it makes me think of my friend Scott Stewart, and his book, before you die. Before the final chapter, I think. Right, and that is all about before you die, and the plans that you need to, the conversations you need to have long before the moment arrives. It is not.
I was lying in resus, and I heard them talking about a DNR, and I was trying to raise my arm and say, no, 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 you got the wrong person. And my arm wouldn't raise, my mouth wouldn't work, and I could in my head I could hear them. I wanted to shout, but nothing was coming out, because I got masks and CPAP machines on and God knows what else. But ultimately, they were checking for a DNR. And I came out of there and went, right, I don't want a DNR signing. I want to know, why would you do that? Ben was like, well, the thing is, Mum, it's not really your decision. And I was like, no, listen here, mate. And he was like, no, what I mean is, the hospital, if you were that poorly, they would make the decision for you. If you were like losing oxygen, your brain was not functioning, wouldn't you rather not be here at all than be here as a vegetable? And I was like, 100%, I agree. I said, but I would like them to try and keep me here first. Don't just go to the let's pull the plug, But you don't know. I mean, it was a horrible conversation, but we had the conversation. We talked about me having this care plan. I pay so much money each month to have a care plan, a arrangement, because I don't always want to be, if it ever gets that bad again, a burden on Charles.
I think it's for us not to see these conversations as morbid. They're necessary. That's it. And the best time to have those conversations is today.
When you're
yesterday was a better day.
Absolutely. When you can function and you can both speak honestly and from the heart. And I know this is an odd thing, but it was an interesting comment from Charles's mum. She was saying, it's funny, isn't it, how the girls, it's always the women who have to be the nurturers and the carers and that do this, that, and the other. And I was like, well, why are you saying that? What does that mean? And she said, well, the men just aren't that way inclined, And I said, well, there are a lot of very good male carers, actually. So I said, I don't agree with you. I said, but then, maybe what I'm seeing is something different. And she said, well, I'm not really meaning carers. I suppose I'm talking more along the lines of people who are like just coming into your life and then like taking from you, I suppose. And I was like, what are they taking? And she's like, well, they come in, they take everything. That's what she said. They take everything because everything has to be sold to cover the bills. And I was like, okay, well, stop talking about this now because you're going to get upset, because she was starting to get a bit like sad. And I hate that conversation, but she's right. She's absolutely right. And Jamie and Debbie, you know, were saying that if her mum and dad had had a will, they could have resolved this, you know, like from the minute her mum,
Yeah.
her dad had a heart attack, and he was the carer. It was the poor people who couldn't get in, pushed the key through the lock eventually, and the key fell out because he'd obviously locked it from the inside, and the carers got in, and the carers found Jeff dead in his bed, and they found Anne in a right state in her bed because she'd not been looked after or anything, because obviously he was dead. And we don't know when it was that he went for a lay down, because the last time the carers were there was 7 o'clock that night. So he could have died any time between 7 p.m. that night and 8:30 in the morning,
Oh, yeah.
and was just lying in the bed in all her yuck and all her, you know, whatever, without any way of speaking or communicating or anything.
You know,
And that
it's scary. It's
cost him
scary.
£3,000, you know.
No,
I just think you have to really, if we do nothing else, make today's conversation, have the conversation, have the
yes,
conversation at home, have
I
the
agree.
conversation. As
Yeah,
any, it's got a room called What If, but this is a what if conversation that I think is extremely important, and I hope we've brought it to you in a kind, compassionate manner. I apologise again for sounding snotty and horrible, my eye running constantly under my eye, under my glasses. Hopefully I've got through it okay.
we can't see any. We can't see your eyes running. Thank
Oh
goodness.
gosh, it
No,
was awful.
Stacey, I agree with you. Stacey, it's important to have advanced directives.
Yeah,
That's what goes in your will. That's what goes in a care plan. Also, and like you say, let's have this conversation today. No, let's not wait until until the gory time when it feels like we are trying to pull a fast one. We'll take things away. Let's make the plans now. So Ollie's got a question. I think let's end on Ollie's question. So Ollie's question is, what was during the 3 months the most challenging moment you struggled with?
she
So
about COVID.
well, during your care, during you being cared for, what was the biggest struggles?
What was my biggest struggle?
Yeah.
I think I felt very restricted because I was stuck in bed and I couldn't move, and I had a commode, and I found that incredibly embarrassing. I had to be helped onto the commode, I helped off the commode, and because I wasn't eating, I didn't actually need to use the bathroom very often. But the having a wee was always needed, because they were always chucking water down me to try and keep me hydrated. But a lot of the drugs required food. So I was almost force fed. They were talking about putting a tube in my stomach at one time because I just couldn't eat. Um, and I couldn't eat because I just felt so exhausted. The idea of chewing food was just so exhausting. And I think that people who don't understand the effort involved in chewing something don't understand what it's like to be that ill, that you are pretty much restricted in every single form, whether it's mentally, physically, and also creatively, and um your smarts, like, you've got these natural smarts, and they all seem to be dribbling out the door. You kind of watching them just dissipate out the door, and you're like, well, why is that happening? Why are my smarts disappearing? I mean, I get frustrated. I try and do a button up. I've got arthritis in my fingers, and trying to do a button up or something can drive me absolutely lally. I press one letter on the phone, and I can get 4 letters, you know, and I have a terrible time like doing texting. But you know, those are the sorts of things that I think I found frustrating. What my husband would say, I think, would be the whole lot. the from the nursing to the bedding to the, like, as in looking after me, making sure that I was the bathroom was available. He would wake up in an instant. If I turned, he'd say, "Don't turn over because of your spine." And your natural reaction is to just turn over, and he'd have to literally put his hands on my back to stop me from turning, and then I would stay sleep in that position, and then he could go back to sleep. And sometimes he'd actually put his bum on my bum to stop me from rolling over in the night, because if I were to lay on my back, I'd be laying on the wires and laying on the gadget, which they don't want you to do for a period of time. Some of the back operations I've had were so hideous. When you look at my back, it just looks like someone played noughts and crosses from the left to the right and then all the way up. It's awful. But it's now kept me. I'm walking, I'm relatively, and I say relatively healthy. I mean, obviously, we had our first meal out last Sunday, and I survived it. I had a children's meal, but I survived it. Charles still had to take the Yorkshire pudding off, and he had to eat the dessert that came with it, which was a little chocolate brownie with some ice cream. But, you know, a mouthful, and I'd had enough. But I think the hardest part looking back is knowing that there's me. I was inside there somewhere, and it was like a child in a cage, and I couldn't get out. And yet I knew what I wanted to say. I knew what I wanted to do, but I couldn't get out. That's how I describe it. That's how I saw it. Now, how he saw it was hell on earth. There's no question it was hell on earth for Charles, because it was, you know, he didn't know whether or not I'd be alive or dead the next morning. And it was awful. I mean, there's no other word for it. It was awful. But when you come through something like that, you come through it thick and thin, and it's an amazing feeling. So I think ultimately that's the key, is to make sure that you are a pair, a couple, and you start this journey as a couple and you end this journey as a couple. And that's key. I think there has to be a real level of understanding. And I think having these conversations about at what stage do you call in the, you know, the help to support you, I think it might be a lot sooner than you think.
Yeah,
I don't think I was able to
sadly.
call for me for 3 months, but I think after that it was getting tough, you know.
Yeah. No, this is not us being morbid. This is reality. That's, you know, that's we have to go through, and we're going to go through. So we might as well, you know, do something about it now. You know,
The
rather than,
purpose today is to say to people, understand that being a carer is one thing, being a carer of your co-partner or your husband or wife, the problem is that you are now giving up your income. They have already given up their income, and now you're living on the lowest form of benefits. And even if you touch all the top numbers, you're still looking at tops coming out at £1,600 a month. And
yeah,
you know, that's the truth of it. That's the reality. £1,600 a month is what you're supposed to live on. But if you want to put your grandmother in the private nursing home down the road, you're looking at £12,000 a month, £12,000 a week. It's 48 a month.
you know, but so this is where you then begin to,
£50,000
to look and think, what am I entitled to from the state? and even the simple things like, life insurance, critical illness cover. I'm saying, these things all come into play. These things that we can
Well,
work on.
I had critical illness cover from my company.
Hmm.
I was key personnel insurance, and there was a critical illness part of
Yeah.
that cover. And so when I was diagnosed with acute bone disease, acute metabolic bone disease is the real terminology, just in case anyone's scientific in the audience. Basically, it means my bones are crumbling. That's what we're basically dealing with. So it's a degenerative bone disease. They thought it was MND. They thought it was MS. They thought it was all the horrible ones you can think
Hmm.
of. I ended up with
Yeah.
the least horrible, but still horrible enough. But I also
Amen.
think,
Thank
I
you.
also I also have FND, which no one's ever heard of, which is functional nerve disease. And that means that I'll go to pick up a pen and I can chase the pen all around the table for like 5 minutes because the damn thing will not get picked up. They used to train me with a pea and I used to flick it up because I'd get so peed off with it. I'd try and pick it up and I couldn't, and I'd pick it up and I'd pick it up and I'd like, that's it, I'm not playing anymore. I've got no patience for not being able to do things. I would rather say to someone, can you help me pick that up, than I can carry on doing whatever it was I was doing. Because it's too frustrating. Trying to put a necklace on, impossible. Earrings, impossible. Frustration is at its worst. But that doesn't make you a bad person. It
Of course
just
not.
makes somebody that needs help with certain things. And that's all that I wanted to say today, is that carers doing a magnificent job. I'll never let anyone put a carer down, even though the only I've ever been involved with is Ricardo, who stole the chocolate. And I don't really think it was worth starting a big thing about him stealing a chocolate. So when Dad started filling a form out, I just ripped it up and said, forget that, you're not doing that. And Ricardo never came back because Dad told him he wasn't needed.
Mm.
And by the way, told him that he voted to leave Brexit.
Mhm.
And the guy was like, this is a horrible, rude man. I don't want to go back there. And who can blame him? But that's what you have to understand. With anything in this world where people are I mean, I remember a story again of my foster dad. He had a mental crisis when his wife left him. The foster mum left. The foster dad is in his underpants underneath the kitchen table, and he won't come out. And he's crying like a 5-year-old, sobbing his eyes out, and won't come out from underneath the table. And the police get called. And then, first of all, he was going to kill everybody. And he's got guns in the house because he's a farmer. So the first thing they did was want all the arms and all the ammunition and everything else. Luckily, one of my foster brothers is actually a policeman. They contacted him. He went to the house. He took all the firearms and bullets and everything else in his car with him home to his gun store. That meant there was no guns there. They revoked his license there and then. He's not allowed to guns in the house at all, thank God. But he phoned up my other foster brother and was screaming down the phone, I'm going to effing kill you. I'm going to come and kill you. Your mother's told me this, that, and the other. I'm going to come and kill you. And it was horrible to hear. And you listen and you think to yourself, my God, he's really lost the plot. And they were going to take him in, and they said to him, well, you know what? The effort in trying to get him out, instead of saying this was a one-off incident that was just by his own doing, it was his own. He got himself so worked up that he'd lost his wife, and that he'd lost his son, and the mum had gone to live with the son, that he hated the son so much, and he just turned everything on the son and was vile. And then the mother heard it all, and so you can't blame her for not wanting to go home. Then when she finds out he's been, sectioned, if he'd have been kept in the mental health hospital, he had about 400 grand in the bank. I can promise you that would have been eaten up on a weekly basis as quick as you like.
By the
As
system.
quick as you like.
Look, we must go, Paulette. My next show is starting.
Right.
We must go. We must
Paulette,
go.
take care. Bye, guys.
Join us again in 2 weeks' time. Thank you for bearing with our tech issues and everything else, Paulette. Let me see if anyone said anything in the comments to say goodbye. Everything just goes so slowly. Alicia, I think I see you.
Let's just say goodbye ourselves, and then I'll read the comments later. Just take care.
Marsha, bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. You press a button, you wait. You have to wait. You just wait. Wait, Paulette, wait. Wait. My YouTube friends, please like today's video, comment, and subscribe if you have.
She retrained her heart to heal the young, turned her passion into purpose, work begun. Co-author of a movement, not-for-profits game, teaching kids that self-belief can ease the pain. Every child deserves to face their fears with measured thinking, not just tears.